Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the San Francisco Republican Party, Nob Hill Republican Women Federated, the Young Republicans of San Francisco, and the Lincoln Club for sponsoring this, because I think it has been a long time since we've had a debate here in San Francisco among two congressional candidates. But before we talk about the 2010 election, I want to bring you back a little bit to the election of 2008, because as you'll remember, there were some very serious issues within that campaign, but all of them were put on the back burner at the very end. Remember, in September of that year, and all of a sudden we had a financial crisis that none of our leadership had any clue about. They were caught totally off guard. So all of a sudden, all these issues, many of which I bet will be in the questions that you're going to be asking me today, they were all put on the back burner, and everything all of a sudden became about change. So really, any look at that campaign was, the word change was so important, but isn't it odd that the people we elected got the totally wrong idea about change? We didn't want them to change our country. We didn't want them to change us. We wanted them to change themselves. And that has not happened in any way, shape, or form. Because what did we want? We wanted to be told the truth. We wanted to have some confidence in our government again. We wanted to believe what they told us, and they wanted us to be interested in what we wanted and to respond to that. And quite frankly, that was what we heard when they were elected. That was what we expected. That is not at all what we got. And I think that's why this campaign and this 2010 election has become such a critical thing in this country. People who have never been interested in politics before are out and angry. We've witnessed and been appalled by a Congress that has so caught up in partisan politics, in arm twisting, in making special deals, that we really were appalled and very disappointed in our Congress. I'd also like to bring something up about what we do want in change, and that is we want fairness. You know, one of the things as I look at polls I'm always shocked by is that as upset as we are about taxes, we aren't anywhere near as upset about taxes as the spending that our government's doing. Americans are more than willing to pay their fair share. It's just that they don't see the tax system we have as fair, and as we see the health care plan that came out with us and how the IRS is even going to be involved in that, I think many citizens are very concerned. So what do we want? Well, we want a government, again, that's fair, and we want a government that does not reward bad behavior and punish good behavior, and that's what we're seeing. So I would like to lay out what I think as a candidate I would like to propose in my platform, and that is we want to get our individual rights back. We will take on our responsibilities, but we want our freedoms. We want a sound money policy. We want privacy rights, because the other things that I'm going to talk about, lower taxes and regulations, quite frankly, those are ways to take our property rights away. And last but not least, we want to get back to a free market economy, because our government has taken way too much of that in just one short year. Now, anyone who's listened to me and my campaign talks knows that I have sort of a mantra of my campaign, and that is that we have a government that is completely out of control, and yet it is intent on controlling every aspect of its citizens' lives. And I would like to say what you should ask of all your candidates, congressional candidates, state candidates, everyone that's asking for your vote, that we have to impose control upon government, not them controlling us. So my job as a congressional freshman would be to impose control, especially fiscal control at this point, upon our Congress, and also to roll back all the regulations, all the laws that have been passed that take away our freedoms. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to read, excuse me, John. All of the applause and any comments will be taken from the time period for questions. So you're going to hurt the candidate you support by any kind of reaction. I think it's best to just listen, and at the end, we can show our appreciation. John?
Thank you very much to the organizers and to the Republican clubs that made tonight possible. This is a significant event for our respective campaigns and also for the Republican Party. Tonight's debate shows that San Francisco Republicans are an important and vital voice to the political dialogue, not only here in the city, but of course in the Bay Area as well. Let me tell you a little bit about me and how it was I came to this decision to run for Congress. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey. My father was a longshoreman. My mother was a city hall clerk. I earned a scholarship to a Jesuit prep school. I went to a Jesuit university, and I co-founded a substantial company known as Human Scale. I also grew up in a housing project called Curry's Woods. My family was one of the first to move into a grand high experiment called Curry's Woods. It was an episode in social engineering in Jersey City. And I'm sorry to say that the entire story of my life in Curry's Woods was not a happy one. What I learned from living there is that when a government owns something, nobody owns it. And when nobody owns it, nobody takes care of it. And in the case of Curry's Woods, it eventually became clear that this was going to be another crime-ridden, drug-infested nightmare that we've come to associate with the term public housing. In fact, Curry's Woods became the setting for the Spike Lee film Clockers. Eventually, this grand experiment in government social engineering imploded. It failed, and six buildings were dynamited into dust. For me, the Curry's Woods experience remains a powerful metaphor for government programs. It was conceived with good intentions, and ultimately it wasted millions of dollars and harmed thousands of lives. With this experience in mind, I still didn't find my full political voice until I went to college, where I discovered my political passion, individual liberty. And although I had strong political convictions, I didn't get politically active until just a few years ago. And when I was looking into this race, I was hoping to find a candidate who would stand up and say the things that I wanted to hear them say them in a way that I wanted to hear them say them. And finally, and eventually, I just decided to try and be that candidate. As many of you know, I was active in the Ron Paul for President campaign. As was mentioned, I worked in 4 states, in Nevada, the Iowa caucuses. I also was a volunteer leader here in California. I was attracted to the Ron Paul campaign, as were many Republicans, for 2 reasons. First and foremost was Ron Paul's commitment to individual liberty, and also to the commitment to the idea that government's role in our lives is just to protect our rights, not to deny them. I was also attracted to Ron's emphasis on following the U.S. Constitution. I was pleased that he would look at government and try and follow it through those constitutional principles. I've also tried to do the same thing, and many people have been critical of me for following those principles in this campaign. But the thing is, I believe that 95% of what we're going through now has been caused by the federal government's interference in our lives. And that interference comes only because we've ignored the very document upon which this country was founded. Now, having said that, we can debate our founding documents, we can debate a number of different issues, but the truth is there is one straightforward, real question for San Francisco Republicans in this debate. And that is the question, which one of the 2 candidates here is best equipped to take on the critically important role of facing the most powerful Democrat in the U.S. Congress? My opponent's record is transparent. As she mentioned, she ran in 2008, but first and foremost, we have to understand that my opponent doesn't live in the district. In 2008, when she ran, she raised more money than Nancy Pelosi's 10 previous Republican opponents combined, and yet she got the fewest votes that any Republican has ever received running against Nancy Pelosi. This is an enormous handicap for my opponent to overcome. In contrast, I offer not only a new face to the electorate, but also a new approach for the Republicans, which has energized a new volunteer base and generated contributions and support from around the nation. But make no mistake, the campaign against Nancy Pelosi is a national campaign. It's essential that we select the best Republican for the task. Thank you again, and I look forward to your questions.
I'll ask the first question, and as the card group gets them organized. Yes, the first question is on Iran, and the first question will be to Dana Walsh. Iran has indicated on several occasions called for the elimination of the Israeli state. But yesterday we learned from an unclassified defense document that Iran will be capable of hitting the United States by the year 2015, presumably with nuclear weapons. I asked the candidate what action should be taken once it's confirmed that Iran has developed nuclear weapons.